Disclaimer. These videos show some tips to help you on a thru-hike of the AT. The ideas presented are not the only way, merely one hiker's experience. Remember, hike your own hike.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen.
Smile, baby!
You are watching Two Katahdin.
We are not watching Two Katahdin.
You're not. You're watching Tips from the Trail.
We are back
You're watching
with
Two Mount Misery.
some more
Tips from the trail.
So that's what I do. I do this and then it says tips from the trail. They've seen it. Today we are going to talk about cooking systems on the AT. It is about that time of year again. The next group of adventurers are going to start soon on their AT through hikes, and I thought that Sharon and I today on our hike would talk a little bit about cooking systems, the different kinds that are out there, what we used on the AT and how it worked for us. So let's get right into it.
Cooking systems are one thing we changed on the trail a little bit. We didn't change much, but we did change our cooking system slightly.
We adjusted a little bit. Before we get into the way we did everything, I want to just briefly touch on some of your other options. We don't know a whole lot about them, just what we saw on the trail. So starting with some of your lightest options and working your way up, first we have cold camping. Cold camping is where you just don't have a cook stove. Everything you eat is cold. People think that means you can't do any dehydrated meals, and that's not true. Dehydrated meals don't really need heat, they just need the water. So you can actually use cold water to hydrate your meals, and a nifty trick is to put the water in the package to rehydrate your meal and then hike with it inside of your jacket up close to your skin, and your body will warm it up to just body temperature. So now you don't have a hot meal, but you have a warm, hydrated meal. You can do pasta sides and stuff like that and not carry a stove.
Now, you'd think with cold camping that it'd be convenient to just cook over a fire if you needed to. Bring a pot, cook over a fire. You don't make fires on the AT. I think we had maybe 4 fires our whole trip.
Out of the 153 days,
Yeah.
4 fires.
By the time you get into camp at night, you're too tired. A lot of times the wood is too wet. You just don't make fires.
That's right.
The next option you could go with is an alcohol stove. Now, alcohol stoves can be pretty convenient and pretty inexpensive. You can make one out of a pop can.
Exactly.
That makes them also very light. The alcohol that you use to fuel the fire can be bought by the ounce a lot of places along the trail, and bonus, it can be carried in a plastic bottle,
Which would cut down on even more weight because you won't have that fuel.
and if you need a lot of fuel, take a water bottle. If you know you can get fuel in the next couple days, just take a small bottle.
Always mark your fuel bottle so you know what's fuel and what is water. But I would say that from what we know on alcohol stoves, the one thing to be very cautious about is because it's an open fuel source, you're going to want to make sure that you're careful, because potential for knocking it over and fire is more of a potential with your alcohol stoves.
We didn't see any active accidents, but we saw some remains from some accidents.
We stayed at a shelter in Vermont that someone had their alcohol stove tip over and actually caught the shelter on fire. So that is definitely a danger with the open fuel source, but you do get the lightweight. All right, the next step up, I would say, is your standalone stoves, like your pocket rockets. It is just the burner. You carry a fuel canister, you screw your burner on top, and then you have a variety of different pots and stuff that you can cook on. Now, these work really well and are some of the most popular on the trail because of how small they are, how well they pack down. They're very efficient and they're very reliable. I guess the only things that I see wrong with them are, well, you have the same problems you do with like a jet boils. You have to find your fuel containers, but unlike the Jetboil that has like a built-in windbreak, a lot of people have to put a wind shroud up and carry extra equipment on windy days, otherwise they don't burn very well. This is the same goes for the alcohol stoves. But
one more downfall is that they're small, which you think would be great, but that makes them easy to lose, right, Lucky?
this is true. So that is another obstacle, is that you may misplace them if you're very unorganized. Another downside would be that unlike the Jetboil system, and I'll talk a lot about that because that's what we use, but unlike our system that everything clips together, with an alcohol stove, everything has to be balanced, and you have to put your pot on top of it, and there's a chance of tipping it over, and in windy situations that can be a problem. Now, this isn't a game breaker. The same goes for the pocket rocket. That's what I was talking about. But whatever. Hey honey, it's a trail register. You broke it!
They're gonna kick us out of the park.
I think you can fix
We're
it.
just breaking stuff.
It's a white blaze. Nailed it. Okay.
The next step up would be the Jetboil, but we'll get into that later.
Along with the Jetboil, you have other cooking systems. Now, Jetboil was like the pioneer of that, but I haven't done a lot of research on the other systems, but I know there's some other similar ones out there. And the very top of the list is like your big group burners and group stoves, and we saw some people on the trail with like cast iron skillets and stuff like that, where you're just cooking over a fire. I mean, there's those other options out there, but in this video we're just going to talk mainly about the cooking stoves. Well, that's all we know about these other cooking systems, but I figured in the video we would dive in a little deeper into exactly how we cooked our meals on the AT, and the best way to show that is to actually do it. So we brought our system with us, and just like we did on the AT, we're gonna stop and have a little bit of lunch, and we're gonna cook up our dinner and show you exactly how we did it. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
You're ready, all right. Okay, our cooking system consists of our little warming pouch, our Jetboil with water collecting cup, and our food. And like Sharon said earlier, oh, fuel canister. Like Sharon said earlier, our food or our cooking system did change on the AT, and the thing that changed was we went from having all of our meals cooked in like pots and stuff to cooking in bags. And I'll get a little bit more into that, but by putting everything in freezer bags that are able to have boiling water in them, you cut out on all of the packaging that you're taking along. You can repackage them all in towns or have them repackaged before your mail drops are sent to you, and then you can eat directly in this bag. You could lick it all out and reuse it, or just throw them away, and when you do your next resupply, you know, fill up some new bags. The one nice thing about the Jetboil is it's like a self-contained unit. If we had a smaller fuel canister, it would actually fit inside this, and all of the parts fit right inside the Jetboil. You can find a spot almost anywhere with this little stabilizer stand that to set that Jetboil. I mean, right there is perfect. Splash, splash, splash. As easy as that. The one issue some people say they have is that igniter sometimes doesn't work quite right, but we noticed that it gets a little buildup on it, and if you take the time to kind of clean the buildup off of the end of the igniter, it normally works fine. There were a couple occasions where maybe it was weather, it was really cold or something where it didn't work. I carried a backup mini Bic lighter, so it took care of that issue. So for a couple minutes, it's going to take the heat up. These are so old. This is beef jerky from the AT. It was sealed. It should be good, right? Man. But we would often do this while we sat down to eat some beef jerky or eat lunch, granola, whatever. We would heat up water and then prepare these dinners for later. I was just showing them what you did while I cooked every night.
We didn't have apples very often on this trail.
That's true. One of the downsides with the jet boil is they're kind of hard to get on a simmering. Once it comes up to boiling, it's boiling. So we always just shut it off. Today we were making, these are sweet potatoes, I think, sweet instant potatoes, and just a pasta side, like broccoli, cheese, noodles, or something like that. This is how we did it. I just eyeballed what I thought the noodles needed. I got pretty good at it after a while. Don't you go anywhere. And then the mashed potatoes normally took the rest of it. Whoops. Sometimes I had to add a little bit of extra water to the potatoes or to stuff. That's all in just how, or whatever you're cooking and how much it is. Now these bags are really hot right now, so it's kind of hard to mix everything together, but you just do this, kind of mix up all the seasoning, make sure all the noodles are there, and then I let the extra air out. And one would go in the pouch. Same thing with the mashed potatoes. Get the dirt and leaves off of them. The mashed potatoes and stuff like that, they don't actually have to sit. For the most part, they're ready as soon as they're cool enough to eat, because they just need rehydrated. And a lot of times we ate the mashed potatoes on the trail. We were so hungry that it wouldn't matter if there was a little bit of mashed potato powder or whatever inside the bag. We would kind of stir as we ate. But right now they're too hot to eat because, you know, you just added the boiling water. But I would put that inside of the bag as well. Close the lid. And now you've got your dinner all ready and cooked. And it'll stay warm inside these for hours. And it's really too warm to eat now. In the winter when it was really cold, you could actually feel the heat on this. You could put it inside your sleeping bag after you were finished and use it to kind of warm up your sleeping bag. But for us, what? But for us, if we cooked it at lunchtime, we would just take it, put it back inside of our pack, hike the rest of the day. And at any point in time, if we wanted to eat, we could pull it out, we could eat it on the trail throughout the bag, or get to camp, set up the camp, and pull them out and eat them.
We could eat it on the trail throughout the bag.
We could eat it on the trail throughout the bag, on the trail throughout the bag.
On the trail throughout the bag.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Cleanup for the jet boil, for what we used it for, was pretty simple because we only had water in here. But if you don't do anything with this, right after you're done cooking, you can leave it open and it'll kind of steam off the majority of the water. The other thing that you can do, and you need to be careful, is you can kick on the burner for just about that long. You see how it steams it right up? That'll evaporate the rest of the water. You can't leave it on for too long. You have to be careful because what'll end up happening is without the water to keep these coils in the bottom of your jet boil cold, it can warp. And if it warps this metal here and no longer clips into the burner anymore, it kind of breaks the system. You're not able to interlock it, the windbreak's not going to work, the burner's not going to be as efficient, it's not going to be stable. You really got to be careful that you don't warp this. If you don't want to take that risk, we always carried a little hanky that when we were done, we could just wipe out the inside of the jet boil and get all the water out. Main reason to not leave water in there, the water doesn't need to be stale, or we don't want the water to be stale. And if you're storing your fuel canister inside of your jet boil, The Jetboil and components are all stainless, but the fuel canister ring is not and can rust and leave rust inside of your Jetboil. Another thing to consider with your Jetboil is this little bottom cup. Yes, it can be used as a measuring cup or to eat out of and stuff, which is all fine, but its main function is to protect this shroud at the bottom. Just like overheating can warp this, if I was to drop this and dent these corners, it would no longer fit together well either. So you have to be careful and protect this. That's kind of what this cup is here for, but the cup is made out of some pretty thin plastic. In our Jetboil Sumo, the bigger cup that we have, we actually broke our little plastic cup. We were able to tape it together and make it work, but you need to be a little bit careful with that to make sure that it stays intact so it can protect the bottom of the Jetboil. One thing we did is we got lucky with this Minute Maid orange juice container we cut off. Not only does it double as like a wash bin or to get water, it also, the Jetboil fits in it very well and puts an added protection to the bottom of the Jetboil. Wait a minute, was that the mountain? We're coming down. That's the mountain. Mount Misery. That's the smallest mountain ever.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we know about cooking on the AT. I hope this video has been helpful, and good luck to all of you thru hikers that are planning to thru hike the AT in 2016. And stay tuned for more tips from the trail, because if it worked for us, it may work for you. Bye-bye.
Exactly.
To you until we meet.
Oh, he was gonna pull away though.
Happy trails to you. Smiling until then.
Here, we can walk
I am
around.
happy trails to you. Here's a famous expression. Felice and Daryl. Happy trails. Felice and Daryl. Stay safe. Keep it between the blazes.